Hey folks, it's Mr. Ray here again. Our next math lesson in grade 10 academic. So this will be our seventh lesson in distance learning. Uh, it's actually the last lesson of Unit 3 in the formal course. That's a milestone. That's the last lesson in quadratics. So I know it's been a long haul. It's been a lot of sometimes tough work, sometimes monotonous maybe. Um, but this kind of is what this lesson here is kind of what we've been leading towards for the last 2 months or whatever we've taken to do the course so far. It's basically applying what we've learned with quadratics. That includes factoring, completing the square, expanding, um, the different forms of quadratics, vertex, standard, and factored, um, some of the key aspects or characteristics of quadratic, like the vertex, the x-intercepts. Um, Basically, the last lesson was kind of building up to this, basically reminding you how to go about finding the different key parts, key characteristics of a quadratic from the three forms of the equation. So now what we're doing is we're working with word problems, uh, and we're going to use those skills that we've been practicing. So um, I know most of you in math don't really like to hear word problems, um, but it is the more. I mean, there's no point in learning math skills if you don't know how they relate to things that we might want to figure out in the real world, and that's where we are here. Um, so this week we're just going to do one lesson, and that's this word problem lesson. Uh, the homework is I'll show it to you in a second, but it's basically a little handout with 30 different word problems. Um, I'm going to be showing you how to work with a variety of them. We're going to kind of categorize them, and I'll be doing examples of most of them um, in separate videos. So I'm going to separate those specific word problems into their own videos, so you don't have to kind of go through this a big long video to figure out, well, where was that question on revenue again. And it'll be a separate video, so there'll be multiple video parts. I'll have a couple videos released with this. I'll be adding more throughout through the day. So that's where we are. So um, let's just look at the definition here. I've already kind of talked about this. Quadratic word problems are word questions which always involve a quadratic equation. Sometimes we'll be given it to you, and sometimes you have to create it. So obviously it's more difficult when you have to create it, but hopefully I'll give you enough examples that it shouldn't be overly difficult. Um, Questions will almost always be related to finding the maximum or minimum, which is the vertex, or the roots, the x-intercepts of the function. So what we did in the last lesson, how do you find the vertex or the x-intercepts from any form of quadratic? That will come in extremely handy. It'll be very important. Okay, so what skills do you need to solve word problems? I've kind of gone through that a little bit. Uh, the big new skill that you haven't had to do so far is be able to create a quadratic equation from the information that's given to you. Um, and that involves assigning a variable before you can create the equation. Um, you have to be able to convert the three forms of quadratic equations, and that was your second assignment. So going back and forth between the different forms, and then find various pieces of information from the equation. Most important ones: vertex, roots, x-intercepts, and y-intercept. Uh, and one of the ways we did that was with the quadratic formula. That was fairly recent. Okay, we also did completing the square. You might need to do that. Now, like all word problems, I mean, once you've got figure out what the vertex is or the x-intercept, how does that relate to the final to the final answer to answer the word question? Well, you have to be able to interpret your math solution and then answer answer the with the correct way. Because if the question asks you how high did the firework go, um, right, and you're looking, you figure out the vertex is the point 320. So you won't answer the question with the vertex is 320. You'll be answering the question the fireworks maximum height was 20 meters. Okay, so you have to be able to figure out, well, what does the 3 mean? What does the 20 mean? And how does that relate to the question? Okay, now I'll be generally categorizing the different types of word problems into these main categories. Geometry problems involving triangles and rectangles, having to do with the area, the lengths of the sides, etc. Find the value of two numbers. Projectile problems, this is anything that goes up in the air and comes down, like flares, throwing a baseball. This one will be brand new, revenue problems. So I'll be doing a special video on just that to go through that. And then the rest of them are not too, might be a couple of bridge or parabolic structures. I'll talk a bit, hopefully maybe give you a video on that too. And miscellaneous are just, they don't really fit into these categories. Some of these I might give you the equation, some you'll have to create it. But there's not a whole lot of these out of the 30. And then the rest of this lesson is really just repeating what we did in lesson the previous lesson, where we kind of categorized. So these are the important pieces of information: vertex, x-intercepts, direction. So again, the vertex and the x-intercepts and the y-intercept are probably the most important when you're solving a word problem. Most of the time, it's information related to these three things. Yeah, so this part should seem really familiar. It's exactly, I'm basically copying from the previous lesson, just as a kind of a guide. If you're doing word problems, how do I get the vertex when it's in standard form? Oh yeah, I complete the square and find h and k. So that's how this is. Okay. So the homework for this will be doing the 30 word problems, and you probably say, well, that's a lot of homework, and I agree it is. But here's the benefit. Okay, so this week's assignment will be deciding between 5 and 6 word problems. Let's say it's 6, just for argument's sake. So it's going to be 6 word problems. 5 of the word problems will be from this assignment. Okay, one will be more of a thinking question that you haven't seen on your quadratic word problem assignment, which I'm going to show you in a second. So basically, if you do all 30 word problems over the next 5 days, you'll basically be, if you do them right, you'll be the assignment that comes out on Friday, and I'll probably issue it a bit earlier instead of 3 o'clock, maybe 9 in the morning, just to give you extra time on that. So basically, if you've done all 30 word problems, you can copy five of those, or be directly on the assignment, and there'll be one extra. So there's a real benefit to doing all of these questions. So this document, which is attached as part of this lesson, it's called Quadratic Word Problems. You can see some of them are like 1-2 sentences, some of them are a bit longer. So we'll just scan through these. Okay, what we're going to do, not right now, but I go back to the lesson here for a second. So this is where I kind of talked about the different types of word problems, geometry, etc. So what I would like you to do, and it's, you're not being tested on this, it's more a recognition thing, is to maybe take your word problem document and maybe right beside here, right? Oh, this, for example, this one here, the flight of a ball hit from a tee. Okay, what type of problem is that? Um, well, that's a, you know, something going up in the air and coming down. It's a projectile. So that would be a projectile question. Okay. Um, this one here, a rectangle has an area of 330 meters squared. What type of problem would that be? That looks like geometry. It involves triangles and rectangles. Okay, so there's a geometry question. So I'd like you to go through, just pencil in beside your question, because what I would suggest doing is once you've got these, and I will actually post the correct answers, not right away, but maybe on Tuesday I'll post a scan of the document with the names of the type of word problem. Hopefully you'll have done that before so that you can compare. But what I would suggest is maybe at the very beginning, you'll see an example of me doing a projectile question like this one. Oops, that one there. Um, it may or may not be that one, may be a different one. Um, so we'll go through it. I'll go through it on video. Hopefully you'll get the idea. And then what you can do is all the projectile questions you've identified, go through and do them because they're going to be quite similar. Be minor differences here and there, but that's what I suggest. So, for example, go do all the projectile questions, and then go do all the geometry questions and the revenue questions. If you break it into categories, you'll get into a bit of a momentum because all the questions you're doing have something in common instead of just going back and forth. If you want to do just go straight through, do all 30 in the way they're presented, that's fine. It's really up to you. So, I'm going to end this video now. But what I'd like you to do is look at the videos I've posted. They'll be, underneath this video. I'll have the name of the type of word problem, for example, projectile or revenue, and go through each one separately. I wouldn't probably, most of you probably wouldn't benefit by looking at them all at once. It might be a little bit of information overload, but some of you definitely can. It's really up to what you think you can handle best. So now this week, I really expect to hear from all of you. The office hours that I have, Tuesday and Thursday, if you don't start working on these word problems by Tuesday, you're going to be in big trouble, okay? Because this is a lot of work, and if you have questions and you don't start this till Thursday night, well, it's going to be tough. So I'm here to help you, but I'm not going to be helping you on Saturday. I'm going to be helping you Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you want to text me something on Remind outside of those hours, that's fine. But, I can't draw up a situation with you like I can when I do the office hours. Okay, so this is like I said, this is the end of quadratics. So this is the final assignment on quadratics. We'll be starting something brand new next week, but this is very important. This assignment tells me your understanding of quadratics, and it's a fair bit more work than previous weeks. So I urge you to get started quickly. Ask many questions. If you have if you have a friend in this class or another class, maybe help each other out. I don't mind that at all. As long as you're collaborating and not copying work, I'm good with that. Okay, so look to the other lessons below. The other videos below, and divide and conquer. Like I said, look at the projectile video, and then maybe go do all the projectile questions. Okay, and then by the time you get to the end, it's it won't be as bad as it looked because you're able to do it that way. Okay, so want to see some good work this week. And again, if you have any questions, please ask me. Don't leave this to the last second. And I don't want to hear from anyone next week saying I didn't get it. Well, you should have, you got to do the work and you got to ask questions. Okay, you just can't give up right away. Okay, next year when a lot of you want to do the grade 11 university level math, that is the toughest math course out there. And unfortunately, you guys are at a disadvantage, like a lot of grade 10s are this year. Um, so it's going to be a tough haul, and this is the unit, this is the assignment that will tell me, are you guys ready for the 11 university course? Okay, so let's see some good work out there, and I want to wish you all the best luck. Okay, thanks.